Hello, everyone. This is Anne speaking again. Apologies that you have to hear me disrupt your conversations. Unfortunately, that might happen multiple times during this evening, so I appreciate your grace. But unfortunately, you're sitting here, so maybe you don't have a choice. Sorry about that. This is a little joke, just making sure. Now, before we get started, we would like to gently encourage or remind everyone to practice health and community care. So if you're able to do so, please mask up. We have various types of masks by the front desk and access table if you need to be able to share and protect all of our community members. We're now going to transition into our really exciting panel. I think it's really exciting. I've been just not being able to sleep and hyped up on caffeine thinking about this conversation that we're going to be having for tonight. So we're super thrilled and excited to have three incredible panelists of different generations and forms of advocacy with us tonight to engage in dialogue around what does it mean to be an advocate, holding multiple intersecting identities. And how do we enter into spaces and also not only represent ourselves when it's time to do so, but also share in and bring in the perspectives of communities that we hold dear to our hearts. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce them one at a time and read a little bit of their bios. By all means, this is not like an exhaustive list because they are all very accomplished, but I wanted to give them a little bit of time or share a little bit of their work with y'all today. But let me back up and say, why am I here moderating this panel, right? What makes me qualified? If you could even use that word, because I think we all are qualified with our own lived experience. And don't let anybody tell you that you're not, because they're all wrong. All right, so my name is, you may have heard by now, is Anne Wai-Yee Kwong. I use she, her pronouns. And I have the pleasure of being the coordinator of our Disability Cultural Community Center, which is one of the sponsors of this event. We have ASUC Senator Jada Yang's office, the Othering and Belonging Institute, also as co-sponsors of the event. The Disabled Students Program and also the Wellness Fund have also lended support. So this is by all means not a one-person event. Everybody was able to pitch in and make it possible and bring the dreams into reality and manifest our Lunar New Year evening together. In addition, I wanted to share that the Disability Cultural Community Center really focuses on disability justice, empowerment, and joy. And it's something that we're really proud of creating space for. We're the first, and soon we can't say only Disability Cultural Center in the UC system, because other UCs are going to open Disability Cultural Centers.
About time.
So super, super exciting, and we look forward to collaborating with folks, both spaces that are centered around disability, as well as allies. As a proud Chinese American woman, blind professional, and disabled parent, also I'm making a second child now, so I'm actually pregnant.
Me.
I know, a lot of the work that I do is really grounded in my lived experience and joy. So that's why I get to sit here. Next, I wanted to introduce Professor Karen Nakamura. So Professor Karen Nakamura is a cultural and visual anthropologist at UC Berkeley, and her first book was titled Deaf in Japan, Signing and the Politics of Identity. Her next project resulted in 2 ethnographic films and a monograph titled A Disability of the Soul, an ethnography of schizophrenia and mental illness in contemporary Japan. She is currently working on the intersections of transsexualism and disability politics in post-war Japan, as well as a project on disability, technology, and access, especially in the context of artificial intelligence. So thank you, Professor Karen Nakamura. Next, we have King Lotus Boy. So King Lotus Boy is a transgender, unapologetically disabled, neurodivergent, and chronically illustrious Chinese American drag king. Z is on the board of directors for Oaklash, the Bay Area's drag festival, and the Disability Power Block, a nonprofit that fiscally sponsors disability justice initiatives led by disabled people. Most recently, King Lotus Boy joined the organizing team of Clean Air Network, a mutual aid group providing PPE and free community lending library of high-quality air purifiers to help reduce the spread of disabling airborne illnesses like COVID-19. And in 2023, King Lotus Boy became the first openly disabled Asian winner of the 27th annual San Francisco Drag King contest.
Wow.
Their work has been featured at SF Institute of Contemporary Art, SF MoMA, SF Disability Cultural Center, Chinese Historical Society, and more. So really excited to have King Lotus Boy join us.
Wow.
And last but certainly not least, we have ASUC, which is our student government here at UC Berkeley, Senator Jada Yang. So Jada is a second-year undergraduate student at Berkeley, studying public health, disability studies, and public policy. Born with cerebral palsy, Jada is an avid disability rights advocate committed to amplifying disability voices in policy making and government. At Berkeley, she serves as a senator in the Associated Students of the University of California, ASUC, leading the first disability community-centered Senate office. And through this role, Jada and her team of 40 plus, I think it's grown since that, strong, connected folks serve the disability community and on campus and broader disability advocacy concerns. So let's give it up, some snaps and cheers for all three of our incredible panelists. So the first question. So as we all know, this year is the year of the horse. Typically, this symbolizes resilience, endurance, and forward movement. As disabled Americans, what does the word, quote, movement mean to you personally, politically, or culturally? And this would be a fantastic time for you to share any additional identities, if you feel comfortable, of how you're entering into our conversation tonight. Whoever that likes to go get started.
It's the fire horse, which traditionally was a really bad year to have a girl baby. Traditionally, in the year of the fire horse, girl births plummeted. It's very suspicious. There are a lot of girl births on December 31st, and a lot of very big girl babies on January 1st, or after the Lunar New Year of the next year. So people are just hiding their girl babies. But it's because fire horse girls are thought to be very headstrong, and so I think that's really appropriate. And so they would make good wives, because you don't want a really headstrong woman, right? But I think it's really appropriate that this is the year of fire horse, because I think it's the year that we all get together and really push for, back against what's happening. And when the prompted movement, I thought it's really movements because there are all these different movements. We all belong, I think that all of us belong to like 5 different, all of us on this panel are super intersectional. I identify as disabled, both mad and physically disabled. I identify as Japanese American, I identify as queer, genderqueer. And so all of these different movements come together and circulate within us, but between us as well. So I think that's, it's so appropriate for this to be happening right now.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And I think when I think about movement, right, that can represent a political movement, a social movement, right? Disability justice is a movement. Disability rights, which we all know, the birthplace of the modern contemporary disability rights movement started here in Berkeley on campus, right, all the way back to Ed Roberts. Give it up for our ancestors. And when I think about specifically how movement is connected to my multiple identities, but around being Asian American and disabled and queer and trans, I think about how all movements are connected, right? Thinking about how the Black Panther Party, which was started in 1966, really had a lot of solidarity with Asian American communities specifically, and especially here in the Bay Area. There's a rich history of collaboration and solidarity, particularly between Black and Asian and Pacific Islander communities. And so when I think about that, it always propels me, to look back and learn, right? Learn from our ancestors, many of whom are still alive, right? Are still here with us, still giving us wisdom on how to, as Professor Nakamura said, resist all of these fascist forces, right? And it's really important, especially as Asian American folks, right, to acknowledge not just, where we came from, but, how we contribute to these systems, right? And how we can continue to use our points of access, our points of privilege, or our points of connection, right? Our connection to different communities to uplift each other. And that's what I think about when I think about movement.
Awesome, thanks so much, and for the insightful question and for my fellow panelists with those answers. I'm really glad to be here today. Shout out to some of my office members who are also here. It's been great being a younger, disabled Asian American female in some of these spaces, and so I kind of want to answer this in 2 questions. Or the question in 2 parts. The first is physical movement. So for me, I identify mainly as physically disabled. I was born with cerebral palsy, as Anne mentioned, and so for me, what movement means in that sense is being hyper aware of how I interact, of how others interact, and how society interacts with me being disabled. Whether that be physically in managing my spaces, people around me, or just in general moving around campus.
There's the movement right there.
There you go. So movement to me is being kind of conscious of where my limitations are and how to best move around spaces in that. But secondly, in terms of movement, as you guys both mentioned, having different intersectional identities means moving into spaces that don't usually recognize those voices or positions. So for me, as Anne mentioned, I am the first disabled and one of the first leaders of the disability community Senate seats since 2022. And within that, I've been able to move in spaces that haven't accepted or haven't elevated voices like mine. So what's really important there is not only kind of going back to the first part, realizing and being aware of our different movements within our spaces, but secondly, being empowered to also move into those spaces and really champion voices that haven't gone as heard. And so I'm honored to be a part of a panel with 2 amazing leaders already. So thank you so much.
Oh, snaps to that. Thank you. Just so wonderful to be sharing spaces with everybody on the panel and in the audience. The next is, a lot of times in the disability community, we often hear advocacy. You need to learn how to be a self-advocate. Advocate for what you need. So I wanted to delve a little deeper into what it means to each of you. So advocacy obviously can take many forms, right? And how to do the work. from engaging in disability scholarship, as Professor Nakamura does, and research, to working within policy and legislative spaces, which is what Jada focuses on, to using art to embody multiplicity, as King Lotus Boy you do. So how did each of you discover your own tools and forms for advocacy? And then how did you develop and refine those areas to be able to become experts and uplift disability justice?
I can. These are such great and really potent questions. Thank you, Anne, for preparing such thoughtful ways for us to be in dialogue. I think for me, so I actually went to UC Berkeley, little known fact, graduated in 2018. And during my time on campus was when I first really had to come to terms with the fact that I am disabled, right? I'm not just chronically ill. My chronic illness is also a disability. My neurodivergence is a disability. And I was really grateful for the Disabled Students Program and their really life-changing support, and just a lot of disabled friends that I made that really propelled me into getting more into community organizing and activism in Oakland and in the surrounding areas. And, you know, I'm grateful that shortly after graduation, I found drag, also in 2018. So I'm coming up on my 8-year drag anniversary this April. Oh, thanks. 8 years old, guys. And drag was, without getting too much into that story, because it's a longer story, but essentially drag was the catalyst to me also understanding my trans identity and gender identity. And once I felt that empowerment and really found more people who shared more intersectional identities with me, other queer, trans, disabled, Asian drag artists, right? You can believe it, there are many of us out there, right? And so I really appreciated what Jada shared about, you know, really having to sometimes break down the doors to be in these spaces, right? Or just create our own. And so in the ways that I have been really blessed to be really welcomed by the drag community here in the Bay Area, which has a long and rich history as well, and just the queer and trans and disabled community here. I use my platforms on social media and any opportunity that I get to perform or to produce a show to advocate for our collective liberation, which for me always starts with disability justice, right? Because we've been here, right? We've been here. Alice and Patty, Alice was also a friend of mine, and both of those folks I consider to be disabled oracles, right? Truth tellers, future seers. They've been warning us about fascism for years, right? They've been connecting the dots from eugenics and ableism as the direct line to fascism, right? And one thing I really always admired about Alice is, one, her unflinching and unapologetic voice to say, fuck this shit, right? To say, I'm disabled and I'm angry, and that's okay, right? Especially in a world that constantly tells specifically Asian people, specifically, Asian queer people, Asian women, and then adding disability into that, right? It shames us and silences us, right? And punishes us for daring to express our full range of humanity. So with my art, that is my space to do just that, to express myself in ways that culturally, systemically, I don't always get. And, because I live my life according to, the 10 principles of disability justice that Patty Byrne and Sins Invalid coined. And if you haven't heard, please look it up. We don't have time for me to go through all 10 principles, but one that I really hold dear to my heart is interdependence, which is the idea that no human, no creature, no plant, no animal, no one can survive in isolation, right? No one can thrive in isolation. We need each other. We've always needed each other, but we need each other now more than ever to help each other out, to see where, hey, what's something that I'm good at that you're not, and how can I help you with that? That is truly the path to liberation. And so when I think about advocacy, I always, whenever I get an opportunity, I try to uplift another disabled artist, specifically disabled, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, POC artist, or Asian artist, right? Because I didn't get to where I am by myself, right? I didn't just come out of the womb looking like this. So, I always want to acknowledge that, I'm not who I am without my community, without my loved ones, without my amazing partner, Kamea, who's sitting right there, who helped me get here today, really takes care of me in times of flare-ups. And yeah, so for me, it's all about just any room I am in, living my values, advocating for how can I make this space more accessible. Nothing's going to be ever perfectly accessible, right? But what matters is that we try. And lastly, following and honoring the legacy of Alice Wong, who very loudly and often advocated for masking, right? As someone who could not mask themselves due to having a tracheostomy, it was so critical, right? And so many of us disabled, immunocompromised people, myself included, I have long COVID, in addition to other disabilities and chronic illnesses. The whole world wants to just believe the government, unfortunately, which is weird, right? It's like, why do we believe the government when they said the pandemic was over? But anything else the government says, we're not gonna believe it, right? So masking and acknowledging the realities that, we have to take care of each other. It might inconvenience you, it might be a change in your daily life, but ultimately that is the true path to liberation, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just incredible. And then Karen and Jada, same. How did you all identify your kind of areas of expertise and advocacy to uplift disability justice?
Yeah, thanks so much for that question and for that response. That was amazing. For me, so I've been doing disability advocacy work since high school. I have a running joke in my office. It's literally the only thing I do. And so, going off of that, it can be tiring, especially because a lot of the times in these types of government or policy spaces, you are the only disabled person in the room advocating for disability policy. So what I've learned is A, to always rely on your community first, and B, also learn from your community. The best way to create advocacy in my book is anything for the community that serves the community. And what comes out of that is lived experience. For me, being in those spaces, a lot of the times, my lived experiences weren't shared. And for me, that made me even more empowered to go forward and kind of share those experiences. When it came down to kind of the skills that led me towards advocacy, I am D1 type A. Everyone in my office, if you know, I just get anxious about organization. And one of the things with that is being a self-starter. I know sometimes with disability it's hard, but for me it makes me really motivated, especially being the only or youngest person in the room, to really just live by the motto, like, if no one else is going to do it, like, you can, and like, if no one else in the room is going to stand up for what you believe in, you should. So that's kind of the first part. But the second part is just, again, learning from the community. I am also like D1 extrovert. I am like on the NFP or like on the MBTI scale, like everything I have is 50-50 except for the extrovert part. I'm like 90% extroverted. And so one of the things that I really found was to take my skills and kind of learning about people and really translate it into tangible impact. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but that was kind of the two things, like mainly learning from your community and B, also kind of taking lived experiences and making that like a platform and something to highlight. So.
Thank you.
For me, what links my personal and academic and activism is I really don't know what identity is. Like people say, you have to have a gender and you have to have a sexuality and, ableism, disabled, that And to me, I don't understand those at a fundamental level, to how and why people get labeled. And so part of growing up for me is just not figuring out why people wanted to put me into all these little boxes, and trying to understand how that functions in the world. And so, but part of the thing has been like both coming out to myself, but also realizing that at some point you got to step up. That even if I don't really understand what it means to be Asian American or Japanese American, that I feel like an alien in Japan, I feel like an alien in the US. And so, what does it mean to be like Japanese American if I feel alien in both? What does it mean to, like, gender makes no sense to me. So what does it mean to occupy a gender? That people are trying to still do that. And that it's important for me at times to step up, that my students do look at me and realize, Cal, the percentage of faculty who are Asian American is nowhere near the percentage of the students who are Asian American, right? Especially senior faculty. That the percentage of faculty who are out queer is nowhere near, or gender queer. Like, how many gender queer faculty are there, right? Or, the number of faculty who are out disabled. I mean, there's many of us in the closet, but, there's the number of queer out faculty is not there. And so for the sake of my students, I find that I have to claim these identities. I'm not quite sure I actually believe in them, but I claim being queer, I claim being genderqueer, I claim being Japanese American, I claim being Asian American, I claim being disabled / mad, physically disabled / psychiatrically disabled, even though my whole work is about, how much of a shithole psychiatry is, and how much of a shithole, the medical system is, and how hard it tries to present, this fictive, able body as something that exists in the world and tries to force us all to occupy it or spins us out of it. And so part of my motivation is, we need to, there's so few of us. We need people who are willing to step up. I can't do much, but I can do that. And make it seem like, as a student, I didn't have any. I had very few faculty. I don't know. Do I have any faculty who are Asian American? I think maybe one, maybe. Do I have any faculty who are genderqueer? One, maybe. And disabled, zilch, right? So I think it's important for us, if we can, the least we can do is actually do that. And then if we can push it further, I think it is, part of what I've tried to do is create just community space. And just space for the students to be, to feel free, not to be cornered into any of the identities. One of the things I really liked about how you described GCC, and is that you talked about, one of your mottos is joy. And I think that's really important, because I think fascism hates joy, it hates laughter, and it hates like community, like us getting together. And so the more that we can spread that, and just laugh, even though we're sort of crying all inside. I think that's how we beat this back. So I'm so appreciative of you, Anne, for creating that space for us.
Thank you to all of you for being here, for both honoring our ancestors, ourselves, but demanding that we need to claim space for joy. So I think a lot of y'all shared, being in community is important. Being able to trust your own lived experience and question why things are the way they are is important. So thank you. This next question also touches upon joy, and I'm curious in particular, King Lotus Boy, of your response. So tonight we gather in community around, hopefully soon, Dumplings, performances, and the honoring of our ancestor. Disability advocacy can often be framed through barriers and harm, and we know that things are frustratingly slow, and sometimes you just have to be like, ugh. But what does it look like to instead maybe reframe or shift it a little bit and center joy, beauty, and abundance in our movement, especially as disabled Asian Americans or folks with intersectional experiences? How can, for instance, food, ritual, art, and celebrations become acts of resistance So that question specifically for King Lotus Boy.
Well, please, if anyone else has contributions, I would love to hear them as well, because yes, joy is universal, and I appreciate you, Professor Nakamura, for bringing that joy to center it into this space, right? I'll keep this one short. For me, joy is about sharing energy, sharing love, laughter, food, our rituals, as Anne mentioned, right? All of us, no matter who you are, right? You don't have to be Asian American to appreciate and honor Lunar New Year, right? Or to appreciate and honor our ancestors. We all have rituals that are important to us, whether or not they're connected to a culture or an identity, right? And part of that is sharing that with others, right? For me, a ritual is only blessed when I get to share it with someone or witness someone else's ritual. And also just being in spaces that are by us, for us, right? Run by disabled people, disabled POC, disabled trans and queer people. I want to shout out the San Francisco Disability Cultural Center. If y'all don't know, you should go. It's worth the cross the bridge, I promise. It's the nation's first city-funded disability cultural center, and it is amazing. And they've really been putting on some incredible, incredible community events. There's going to be a Lunar New Year dumpling event where Comrade Lion is also going to be dancing. And I'll be there just helping out. I won't be in drag, so I'll be incognito. And just they continue to put out such incredible events. I was there last weekend. They had a masquerade Lovebirds Ball, which Alice Wong also dreamed up. So Alice was a friend of the center and a lot of us there who are involved, and was a big supporter financially, energetically. And before Alice transitioned, she had given this master plan and list of all these events that she wanted to see and wanted to be in community with. Like Alice was, their generosity truly was unmatched in this lifetime. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that this space exists and that we are continuing to honor Alice's legacy, the legacy of all of our disabled ancestors, by showing up, right? By masking. Thank you everyone who is wearing a mask. That is something that personally I have as an accessibility need. And unfortunately, I've been pushed out of a lot of drag and art spaces because people are just unwilling to meet that need, or unwilling to mask for an hour or for 2 hours, right? So that I can perform and be safe. And so for me, the joy comes from just taking up space as we are and creating the spaces that we want to see in the world, right? Everything around us is burning, is crumbling, as it should be crumbling, so that there's room for new growth, right? There's room for seeds to be planted, and that's what we're all doing here tonight.
Beautiful. Thank you.
But would love to hear from Jada or Professor Nakamura too. How do you center joy?
Yeah, thanks so much for that answer. It was super insightful, and to Anne for asking that question again. I think I can answer this in two ways. The first is kind of the community aspect. I really find joy in being in community. Specifically in our office, we have around, I want to say 65 to 70 people now, so it's a lot of people on campus. And so what I find is that a single mission around disability justice and disability rights can extend beyond just the disabled community. I always make this joke with my other chiefs of staffs, but we have a first-gen Latina helping the Asian American Disability Office. And it's just things like that, like bridging certain communities under a mission that I find joy in. Because A, we don't just have disabled voices, but also allies and people that are genuinely interested in the mission. And so I find joy in learning. I find joy in being in space and having people advocate alongside me in my communities. And I also find joy in knowing that there's people out there that have similar values to mine. But the second part of that is finding joy in that intersection. For me, I definitely am very proud to be Asian American. I'm both Japanese and Chinese, which is really cool to kind of be sitting in the middle between you two. So I find joy in taking up space in those communities and learning from them as well. I think it was mentioned before, but a lot of the times, especially me being a disabled Asian woman, and especially in advocacy spaces where I'm the youngest or the only POC, I interned in DC a while ago, and I was literally the only East Asian person in the office. Like it's not fun, but I find joy and pride in being in those spaces, taking up that space, and making an impact regardless of how people might view me or how I identify. I think it's all about kind of the impact and tangible change you're able to make within certain spaces, and whether that's alongside or by yourself or alongside a community or by yourself, I find joy in taking up space in both of those aspects. So yeah.
I came here about 8 years ago from East Coast private university that rhymes with kale. And people ask why I switched. And part of it was because when I looked around the faculty at that East Coast place, no one seemed really happy. And when I came here, people seemed, it seemed like people were happy. And that seemed really important to me at a fundamental level. I believe in the mission of this campus. I think we often fail it. But, I really believe in the mission. I love the students here. They give me so much energy. I go through, when I want to find happiness, I go through Sproul Plaza at lunchtime. And just everyone there, just, advocating for things that they care about just energizes me so much. It's just like, wow, you guys, you are following what makes you happy. And I think that's really, really important. And the faculty here, we complain about getting underpaid and everything like that. But I think at a fundamental level, we realize that what we do matters in the world. And so I think that's, as an elder, I think that's what, my call for all you is just find what you can do that brings you joy and fulfillment and celebrate the things that, that are meaningful, or find the things that are meaningful to you. Life is really short. I mean, I'm just so sad by the ancestors who left us. But I think all of them had such really rich lives and brought so much to the whole community because they fundamentally believed in it. And so, channel your inner Alice Wong and have dinners. That's, if that's all you can do, just have a dinner and bring together really interesting people and talk with them. And if you can't do that, just do a Zoom call or something. But find the community, find the things that matter, and spread it. I think that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. As we are getting close to time, I'm going to have to be strict here and use rules, even though rules are arbitrary. But anyways, so this question, it'd be great if we could get one of you to respond, so whoever that feels the most compelled. So for many Asian American families, disability can be stigmatizing or misunderstood. How have you navigated cultural expectations, silence, or possible conflict with shame? And how have you transformed these narratives into power?
I'll do a half of it. Coming to terms with myself and the various sort of psychiatric things that go on in my brain, part of the big realization is that I'm like a clone of my mom. And realizing like my mom was so hard on me because she was like really brutalized by her family for being how she was. And so, I don't have any human kids. I have furry kids, but no human kids. But just realizing that the scars run really deep. I mean, the shame and sort of push to be normal is very strong in Asian American families, and the role of the family is very strong. We're not quite as independent of our families as other cultures would allow us to be. And so it takes a lot of work. So, these days, my interactions with my mom is much more filled with compassion, realizing that, she gave me a tough time, but boy, her life was really brutal. And she's still trying to work through it. But she hasn't reached that same level of awareness of that I've had the privilege to. So that's the perspective from someone who's in their 50s. I'd love to hear from those in their 20s about, how things have changed.
Well, I'm 30, so it looks like Jada, this one's all you.
I just turned 20. I got you. I mean, for me, I'm the only physically disabled person in my family, so it was definitely a change. I don't know. I just feel like balancing kind of my family and my disability. I felt it was kind of two separate things, just because I wouldn't talk about it all the time. It's something I definitely had to deal with myself, and I'm still going through. Being able to be vulnerable about who I am and my identity. But it's something that advocacy has helped me with, because I feel like being in the space where I'm the only disabled person, I'm like forced to share my lived experiences and like be vulnerable to others in order to drive a mission. Although, like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be forced or feel compelled to do so. It's something that for me I find effective and something that I use to be empowered for my identity, or with my identity. So that's kind of where I come from. I am younger. I had the privilege of learning about the disabled community and culture when I was younger, and I'm still kind of going through that process. So for me, it always changes. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I am going to insert myself here, even though I was not asking myself this question. But trust me, it gets more complicated when you have parents who are not disabled, who have projected expectations of you as a disabled child, and then you have grandchildren that parents love to add their opinions regardless of whether you're disabled or not. And then you add disability on top of it, and voila, all the opinions become triple, quadruple. Anyways, our last question, I can be here all day. Our last question of the evening before we open it up for maybe one or two public audience member questions is, and because y'all outed yourselves by disclosing your ages, we'll go from the eldest to the youngest.
Nice.
Okay.
What kind of ancestor do you hope to become for future disabled Americans and also allies? And what future are you actively building toward right now? Eldest to youngest.
Oh, yeah, that's so too real. Because in the psych disability community, well, I mean, I think about it a lot, because in the psych disability community, a lot of us don't make it through the 40s. The drugs that the doctors give us, I'm not even talking about the self-medication drugs, are really hard on the cardiovascular system. And so a lot of folks die in their 40s. So I think, with a lot of my friends dying, I think a lot about it. I think I want to be like my friends who passed, who were missed, who had a good life. Yeah, this question's a bit too real, so it's hard for me to answer. No. Yeah, yeah, but I think to be a campus professor who was missed would be nice, but also a community member who was missed would be nice too.
Thank you so much, Professor. Yeah, I feel you with the realness of the question, and can relate to having had several community members, friends who have died before they even hit the age of 30 because of all the intersections, right, of being queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, people of color, disabled, MAD, all of these things that make, unfortunately, our life expectancy a lot lower. And so all I can hope is to be an ancestor that is in any way like any of the folks on our ancestor altar back there, anyone that any of y'all called into this room, and anyone who inspires people to keep fighting for what's right, to keep fighting for a free Palestine, to keep fighting for liberation for all.
Dang, this is kind of real for me too. I don't know, I guess I really want to be known as someone that kind of, especially in the younger generation, broke space and made space for our community. I feel like that's something I've already been able to do in my time at Berkeley, which has been amazing. But second, I really want to leave behind a legacy, and not legacy, but I just want to leave behind a culture of building community and building acceptance within that. I feel like, especially growing up with social media, a lot of the times, there's always pressure to be perfect or always pressure to put an outward facing front. And so people from our office, I'm pretty sure you can like definitely second this on me, but I just love to be silly and goofy in the times that I need to be serious because I really just want to make a community from the ground up. And that's what I've been able to do, and I hope to inspire other people to do, because a lot of the times, whether it be in the Asian American spaces or the disability advocacy space, people don't speak up unless it directly impacts you. And people don't think about disability, for example, unless there's a disabled person in the room. But you have to get to that room first. And so I hope for future generations, even though I'm a bit younger, I hope to inspire people to get to that room and help them on the way there. So yeah, that's definitely a tough and real question. So thank you for asking.
Thank you so much.
If I can just jump in, something that you said really struck something. I mean, and you had asked us earlier what motivates us. I think what motivates me a lot is survivor's guilt. And because, there's so many, we are all on the shoulders of giants. And so I often ask, why am I surviving? So maybe to be an ancestor who inspires a hell of a ton of survivor's guilt, and all y'all when we're gone is something to aspire to. Yeah.
And you're here because you're meant to be here. We're all meant to be here. You are all meant to be here. I just wanted to name that and put that into this room.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Huge snaps and claps to our panelists for just being so vulnerable and sharing their truth, and also honoring those who have come before us and motivating us all to continue onward and find energy. We received lots of pre-submitted questions, and some of them have been touched upon. For instance, there were some really thoughtful questions around COVID and community care. There were also some questions around intersectional identity. So we touched a little bit upon all of those here, but I just wanted to offer, in the very limited amount of time that we have, does anybody in the room have a question they would really want to pose in the 1 minute that we have? And if somebody actually have a question, someone can run a mic to them. If not, we can skip to dumplings.
Don't be shy.
Please.
People are being shy, Anne. Okay, you have a question?
We got one question.
Thank you all so much. My name is Rosemary, and my question is, do you have other leaders or folks who are still with us that you look to for guidance?
I mean, for me, I am on the younger side again, so I literally find everything I know about the disabled community online. I'm chronically online, so there we go. I mean, first off, when I found out that I was on the panel with these two, I was like, whoa. I've learned about Professor Nakamura's work since last year being at Berkeley. And so I would want to credit these two for being the incredible leaders that they are. And I'm honored to be on a panelist with them and share that space with them. I feel like just knowing that there's a disabled person in a bunch of leadership spaces, whether that be in academia or art or in our space like the student advocacy level, just knowing that there's a voice, and even better if there's multiple voices, I look up to everybody. I think everyone is so cool and unique in their own way, and so those are the leaders. It's the ones that might not be as known, but they're there in those spaces. And I know these two for sure. So I definitely would say King Lotus Boy and Professor Nakamura. So not to but yeah, I seriously, it's really amazing just seeing how disability intersects with so many different fields. And I'm honored to kind of be a trailblazer in one of them. So.
I need a moment. I don't know. So if you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, we are celebrating the ancestors who passed on, but there are so many ancestors or elders who are still with us. Corbett O'Toole was one that was really instrumental in getting me over here. She's like, you need to come to campus, and she willed me here. And so, I constantly lean on her for advice or, what would corporate do moments. But there are other sort of activists and leaders aside from our wonderful Anne. Josh Millet is someone who constantly like pushes me in the tech spaces that I work with. Liz Henry is someone who was also one of the major reasons. Is like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be Liz Henry. They are doing so many cool things in the Bay Area. But yeah, it's this is, and then even within Comrade Lovers, to know the people within Comrade Lovers who are just incredibly dedicated, and who I've gotten to know over the past 2 years as really people who are dedicated, Jen May and Leslie Ma, and just really trying to bring community together in a way that's constructive and full of love.
Thank you so much, everybody. And once again,
Did you have?
I know we're running out of time. I'll just briefly answer the question. Thank you. Yeah, there's so many people. I'm inspired by everyone who is in my life and in my community. Alex Locust, aka Glamputee,
Oh yeah.
glamorous amputee, is one of my dear friends, comrade, collaborator, drag icon. Okay. Emily Batix at the SFDCC, Dagny and Mika. Also my friends Forrest, my partner Kamea, and also my friend Rosemary, who are all amazing folks and community organizers in their own right. Rosemary, I just want to shout you out because they consistently hold free mask and test drives, a free food and clothing swap from their home in Berkeley, and have just like live and breathe disabled community. And I've been so blessed to get to know them and become closer friends with her over the past few years. Those are all the folks who are coming to mind right now. I'm sure I'm missing so many people, but yeah, just anyone who I'm blessed to call a friend, a comrade, a collaborator.
Thank you so much for sharing. And to all of our incredible panelists and all of those who are sitting and occupying the space in this room as well, y'all are leaders in your own right. Don't forget, you all have lived experiences and valuable perspectives to contribute. And sneak peek, we are hoping to collaborate with Rosemary on information session about disability community and mutual aid. So stay tuned for more programming. So now we're going to transition to our community time and community meal together. I just wanted to remind folks we have our ancestor altar, as well as y'all are invited to stop by our Good Fortune bar to take and make well wishes for yourself, your family, your chosen family, your friends, your colleagues, maybe your frenemies too. Food will be served outside so that staff can rearrange the space if needed, and that y'all are welcome to eat either indoors or outdoor, but please respect folks if they need some space. And if you're not actively eating or drinking, we encourage you, if you're able, to mask up as well. Also, we wanted to let folks know we have feedback forms all throughout the room. If you enjoyed this event, or even if you don't, we welcome all sorts of feedback. So please feel free to share your experience in the form so we can continue to host community gatherings such as this one. Or if you have suggestions around future topics of community gatherings you would like to see, we'd love to know that as well. So let us know if you can't find a QR code. We'd be happy to point you to the right direction. During our community meal, the Berkeley Chinese a cappella group will also be performing. So you might get some surprise music. And lastly, we wish to thank so many of the folks who made this event and program possible. The Wellness Fund, the Disabled Students Program, the ASUC Senator Jada Yang's office, the Othering and Belonging Institute, thank you for sponsoring the food. Very, very important. And then our incredible panelists, King Lotus Boy, Professor Karen Nakamura, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. And also our incredible DCC staff, so my coworker Rachel, our student staff, wellness fellows, and lastly, of course, Alice Wong, who's here in the space with us, even though they've transitioned.
Yeah.
It's really their idea that really sparked this. So thank you all for your support, partnership, and let's go make good fortunes and eat dumplings.
Yay.